Wait a minute. It says that this broadcast was deleted.
Are we live? I see live. Welcome to another episode of Talking From, the amazing hit series. I'm going to call it a hit series from Epics that is part paint by number mystery and part just excellent horror and thriller. I call it a paint by number because I gotta say, this is one of the few shows that I have seen recently that I absolutely have no idea what is going on. I'm as intrigued as any person about what is happening, but I cannot tell you for the life of me what might be happening. I had some guesses early on, and they were completely destroyed by this episode. So I am going to introduce my co-host, and let's have a chat about this second episode from.
All
Hey,
right.
how are you
I,
today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So this episode is called "The Way Things Are Now," which is a clear reference to the fact that this town feels a little bit like your worst iteration of Groundhog Day, where maybe the day doesn't repeat itself, but nothing changes in the town. The town is static. Um, I gotta start out this episode by asking you. We're gonna start to talk about what happened action wise, but one thing that we didn't get to talk about in the series pilot that I really wanted to get your opinion on was the way that everything looks in the town. How it it looks partly run down, but partly not run down. Like, I don't mean anything's new, but like not everything seems like, oh, it's 1800s old, but boy, does it ever seem like there hasn't been anything new happening in this place in a long time. How did you think about uh, the actual set location where they are?
Oh, I thought it was excellent the way that the town gave that this really great feel to it. It looked like you said it looked old, but it I don't know. It has like a hypnotic um charm to it, if you will.
It
Yeah.
it feels like one of those really old fishing villages where the houses are like they're stable and they're good, but they just look weathered and beaten and like nothing has really been replaced there in a really long time. But they had some tech, right? I mean, they didn't have tech like uh, nobody's phone works and they didn't have computers, but like they have, I guess I would call it decorative tech. There's things around that seem like, oh, maybe they work. And then I have to ask this question because this is a question that everybody asks to start. Where does their food come from?
I'm
If
assuming they have animals. Uh, I'm assuming that they must have like cows and stuff.
So I'm gonna sort of talk about that in a little bit, but I am also gonna say that it is a fascinating thing that there is a diner in the middle of town, and it still feels like the people all go there to eat, and there's enough food to feed every single person in this town. It's crazy. It feels almost impossible.
You
Um,
know what it's kind of like. Do you remember that Stephen King novel and it was the TV show called the Under the Dome?
yes.
It's almost like it's under a dome in a way.
So when I say that From is a little bit like a paint by numbers mystery, I mean that. I mean we basically each episode we get a little bit of a palette and some places to fill in some colors. And we can't possibly begin to know what's happening, especially in this episode, what's really happening overall. And I'm much further into the series, and I still don't know what's happening overall. We get these little glimpses of things that feel as if they are important. Some things feel like they're not important. There's relationships that are happening and relationships that are building. And yet, overall, we really don't have any clear understanding of what is really happening. And I say that because I feel like this is one of this show's triumphs. By the second episode, which is the episode we're talking about today, I was so hooked on this series, and I realized afterwards that it had nothing to do with, did I think it was going to be scary? Did I think it was going to be a mystery? Did I The characters in this story are so compelling and clearly have deep stories to tell that it is hard to turn away. You know, something enormous is happening under the surface, but it's the characters that really drive this forward. So, we're going to start talking about the series by opening with where we kind of left off with the last time, which is in the RV with Boyd and the Matthews, the two Matthews men, and our paramedic, who right now are trying to basically survive the night. And in this episode, the night is everything, right? We are basically playing the game of, can you survive the night? And it's on multiple different levels. Um, when Boyd is inside of the RV, he makes a temporary covering like a door, and he puts up one of the talisman, and he looks to our paramedic and says to her, and I gotta remember her name, um and he says to her basically, uh, or she says to him, is this gonna work? And he says, Yeah, not convincingly, but yeah, it has to work." And I loved that because I felt like, wow, okay, maybe it really isn't going to work, and maybe we are going to start this whole series off by losing a bunch of people, and that will raise the stakes for the people in the town. Honestly, I did not know what was going to happen. It just felt that chaotic. So I am going to ask you, Kinte, first of all, what did you think about that first part? And then secondly, in terms of the overall episode, what did you think about it all sort of taking place? Our entire 1 hour took place just over the course of the night.
I think it was great because it's establishing what the fear is. So what it does is it lets you know very early on in the series that what the threat is, what you can do to protect yourself from the threat, as well as it also sets up what the stakes are. And I thought they did a very good job with that.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, it is so clear from everything that we have seen so far and that we see even in the RV that fearing the night is not just hyperbole. Even if we hadn't seen the little girl get torn apart and her mom get torn apart, that surviving the night is more than just it's more than just horrific. It's an absolute game of it will live or be killed. I mean, that's just sort of the bottom line. But the idea of the talisman sort of being in uncharted territory was super interesting to me. I really latched onto that, like, oh, I see. So they actually haven't tried this before. They
Yeah.
they Did you get that sense as well?
Oh yeah, that they're learning on the fly themselves because we don't know how long they've been there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I really loved that. Because it felt like we as the viewers were also learning something that the characters didn't know too. So it wasn't like it was an established fact that, oh yeah, this is going to work. It felt very high risk, which was awesome. So her name
Awesome.
is Kristi, by the way. It just came
Christy.
to me. Yeah, her name is Kristi. Okay, so Kristi is in the RV trying to act as basically the doctor. They're going to try to unstick our little guy from the RV floor. And uh, inside of the sort of, I guess, the split screen, the next part of it is what's happening at this place called Colony House. And in Colony House, the second part of the Matthews team, which is the mother and the daughter, they first of all, they discover pretty early on that the things that are out there are real, that this isn't pretend, that there's something real going on. But it's so funny to me because they see it on the porch and they clearly just dismiss it the next minute. Did you get that same sense?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. Um, this isn't natural stuff, right? So it's like your mind has to. It's like you're learning that there's a whole world that you never knew exist. So it's like, no, this can't be real. What, like, what? Wait, what's going on? Like it takes. I think that's why they allow them to keep going in circles, because they gotta understand what it is that they're dealing with on some levels.
Right. Now, the people that are in Colony House, they basically treat the newcomers as if they are uh, foreign bodies, and they are the white blood cells that need to protect the rest of the body. So they tie them up, they lock them into rooms. I mean, like it's hostile, and it's clearly in a protective way. Like it doesn't. I never got the sense that like it was hostile in a terrible, violent way. It was just no. Look, we've all been through this. We know what it takes to survive. Either you go through this the right way, or we don't, we're not going to help you. That kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
Did you get that same feeling?
Oh yeah, yeah, and you can't blame them. I mean, uh, they have to do something to protect themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and especially because we know that these things can, for lack of a better term, dress up
Right.
as people that we might know. And that definitely is a big. In fact, I was talking about this to someone else earlier. On When they're on the porch, doesn't it seem like Julie recognizes someone in sort of the monster crowd?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, this guy right here. Yeah, she recognized it.
that feels like that might be important later. I don't know. I mean, actually, I really don't know because we haven't seen anything so far that I've seen about him. But it does feel kind of important that we are aware that people are seeing things that are not real at night, or maybe not real, but not a real representation of what's happening at night. So that I thought was super interesting as well. Um, okay, so we know that basically the one side of the family is getting baptism by fire in the middle of the forest. They're being surrounded. Voices are coming in, sort of almost discorporal voices. And then they start banging on the RV. All the while, this poor little kid is trapped on this steel spike that has come up through the floor. And Kristi is trying to do her best to keep everything calm. Jim is clearly very upset. Boyd is trying to just make sure that does the talisman work? What can we do? That whole sequence in the RV that gets cut back and forth felt so like surreal in a way that I can only imagine being a part of. I mean, it's almost impossible to think that somebody is telling you that basically there's like, okay, there's monsters out there and they're real. And in the meantime, you're trying to deal with like, okay, your son is hurt or whatever, and somebody is telling you that there's monsters that are real. Like, where does your mind even go? I can't even imagine it. I just can't. And then if we split screen that with what's happening in Colony House, what we discover is that basically um, uh, there is the same thing is happening at Colony House, but in a different sort of in a different way. Um, Tabitha's the mom is being told basically they start out by saying this is going to be the longest night of your life, right? And I feel like that actually is true because it is literally the transition between whatever you knew was real before and what is happening to you right now. And either you can accept it and move forward, or you will not accept it and most likely die. And I felt like that was so powerful. It was super powerful when she told the story about her sister. Like I would love to hear what your perspective of how Tabitha's sort of exposure into this world went, because I feel like like this is essential to understanding what everybody goes through when they're first there. Like it's almost like the stages of grief. It's, you know, denial, it's anger, it's uh all of those things that all kind of happen and you're going through them at super breakneck speed. So tell me what you thought about it.
Well, I mean, you're finding out that you're basically stuck in purgatory, and as far as they know, there's no way out. That this may be your the rest of your life. I can imagine it must be frightening as hell. And you don't want to believe it. You want to believe that this is not true. And I think the best thing as far as they're concerned is, I mean, at least they're there with their whole family. Um, you know, the people that they probably love the most. But still, though, it's a nightmare situation. And there's, like you said, there's all this denial and whatnot. It's like it's a nightmare. Like maybe it's a dream or a nightmare. So
Well, I love the way that Donna starts out by telling Tabitha basically, you know, okay, here's the story of my sister. This is what happened when we first came into town. This is why I know that this is real. And to hear her story so grounded, um, I feel like that made it much harder for Tabitha to just ignore it. Like it clearly this is something much bigger than just, you know, a bunch of people trying to scare me into thinking that there's monsters out there. And yet I feel like Tabitha still didn't get it. She still wanted to sort of rail against it, like, no, that can't possibly be that. That's you're wrong. That's not what's happening at all. Um, I kind of love that just because I feel like they're all so skeptical that it makes the ultimate revelations just that much more poignant, more impactful. Like, yeah, of course, that is exactly what would happen. You know, once you accept that there's monsters, you can't go back from that. So
no, yeah.
I thought that was great. Um, okay, so I I think I want to move a little bit toward uh how everyone is kind of coping with what's happening. And when I say that, I mean sort of everyone. It feels like everyone has their own way of dealing with what's happening here. Everybody from Kenny to Tabitha to Donna, and some of the new characters that we meet, they all feel like Fatima, who seems to really want to help. Um, well, she just wants to help. They all seem like they have these amazing coping skills around what is happening to them. And I wanted to kind of get your opinion about what you thought about some of those characters and what is happening to them.
Well, Kenny has his situation is really sad. Actually, we forgot to mention that the episode kind of starts off with a flash forward of uh of him covered in blood, chopping a tree.
Oh, right.
And and then what ultimately what that turns out to be is very tragic. But I mean, to be honest with you, this is so, like, this is only 2 episodes in there. I don't really have a great feel of the characters yet. So I'm kind of like, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of just, you know what I'm saying? I haven't connected to them yet. So, but Kenny though, I did connect to pretty fast,
Hmm.
as well as obviously Boyd and the Matthews family. Those were the ones that I really connected to. And then, poor Kenny's dad.
To oh gosh, yeah. So okay, so Sarah leaves the door open.
Yeah.
I mean, she literally leaves the door open, which we know from our last discussion is what breaks the seal that the talismans seem to have on enclosed spaces. Now, what I think is very telling is even the spaces that were closed within the closed space were not safe because they tried to lock themselves into another room, and even that wasn't safe. So clearly, the talisman, there's something very special about that, and we don't know what that is. Do you have any theories?
I have no idea. I mean, like you said, I'm trying to guess what's going to happen, and I'm still not sure. Let me ask this question about Sarah. Do you think that she left the door open to cover up what she did, or did she do it to kill them?
So, originally, when I watched this episode, I actually thought that she left the door open because she wasn't thinking, because she had just done something horrific and she was sort of not like she wasn't in her right mind. And I thought that that's what they were trying to tell us. But no, that absolutely is not what's happening. Um
Oh, so she meant to leave the door open.
she did mean to leave the door open. Yeah. And we'll find out in a little bit in the next coming episode or so. We're going to find out what it is that sort of made those things happen, how what is affecting Sarah that is causing that. Now clearly Sarah's brother is like super upset and very concerned about his sister. And in this episode, I think it's in this episode, this is where we hear about the chickens and how the chickens and I guess some other animals, they just show up.
Really?
It's one line, and I because I was so fascinated with where does all the food come from in the beginning, I heard that one line and replayed it like 3 times.
Oh,
They don't know where the food comes from. It just shows up.
oh, so that's how they keep getting food.
It's such a weird idea. It's super
You know
weird.
what
I loved it
you
though.
know what I'm thinking though? Could this be some sort of test or something where there's some outside force that's putting them there in this situation, and just
Yeah.
to see
You
what's
know,
going on?
I had originally, and again, just to keep saying it, I am further ahead. So there's some things that happen in some later episodes which are going to shed light on just how weird this place is,
Uh-huh.
because things work and they just absolutely shouldn't work. Like, why does the jukebox in the diner come on by itself for no reason? What what's up with that? It
Uh.
just comes on for no reason. That feels very purposeful. But there's other things which also are like, well, we can do this but we can't do that, and that feels very odd, like just so odd. um they clearly still have medicine, or some medicine. They seem to have some things which sort of defy logic of just sort of being in a place that should have run out of everything a long time ago. And we know that some of them have been here for a long time. You get the feeling that Kenny has actually been here for quite some time. I mean, there are moments of dialogue where people talk about the length of like not it's not in years, it's not in how long, but if you look at the picture of Donna and her sister, uh it seems like Donna was there for quite some time before or when this happened, before she sort of became the de facto head of Colony House. Just
Huh.
look at the picture that she shows. It's
So
not
they're not aging.
well, I don't know if they're not aging. I think they actually are aging, but what I'm saying is they some people have been there for quite some time. Oh no, actually they I know that they're aging. They are aging. Um there's a in the next episode that comes up, there's a very clear indication that they are aging. Um and that actually brings up another point, which is we have a new character to sort of ruminate over, who I think is very interesting. And before I sort of introduce who this character is, I wanted to revisit Sarah again. Um, One of the things that I think is most fascinating about a character like Sarah is we don't know what is happening with her and we don't understand what her motivations are. And so she becomes yet another threat. Like the monsters are a threat, and now there's a threat from the inside as well, which is just basically people. And it feels like that means something pretty big. Like it's not just that there's monsters outside, it's that there is definitely a threat from the inside, and that is just the way that people are. It is just the everyday. People are still elderly, people still have dementia, people still get sick, whatever. All of those things happen. The only thing that we don't know that might happen, and we haven't seen any of that, is can people actually have children there?
Huh.
And what is the fascination that these monsters seem to have with children?
They're perverts.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's something. Yeah, there's something going on. I don't think it's that, but thinking there's something going on with that. I don't know. I mean, when I say I don't know, I mean even in later episodes, I don't know. But I love how much of how much of how much of this we are centering on this idea that somehow children are a threat, because that's what it feels like. It feels like to the monsters, children are a threat. That's why they're targeted. I absolutely felt that from the very beginning. So, well, I guess we'll have to see what happens with that.
Hmm.
Um, okay. I guess maybe uh, the next character to sort of focus on is while Sarah. I'm sorry, not Sarah. While we have things happening at Colony House, right? Um, we realize that there's a lot of people at Colony House, people that maybe aren't actually supposed to be there, because Donna kind of goes out of her way to say, like, you don't belong here, you don't live here, this isn't your place. We treat everyone like this, which makes you kind of wonder what the difference is between Colony House and the rest of the town. Is it different? Is it a different place? Do they have different rules? Like, what's up with that? What did you think?
Yeah, I'm be honest with you. Uh, I'm thinking like maybe this is like a world within the world. Like where they have their own separate thing that's going on there. You know, I mean that's the feeling that I get from it. What about you? Like
Well,
maybe it's its own kingdom within the kingdom.
yes, I think the impression that I got pretty early on was that there were two divisions, right? The division was the people that basically live in town, and then the people that live in Colony House. And somehow, and I don't know exactly how to describe what the difference is, other than to say that there are different rules that apply to the people that live in Colony House than the people that live in town. And even as far into the series as I am, I still don't exactly understand what caused that rift or what caused that division so that they had to have two separate places to sort of, okay, you're here or you're here. But it's very interesting because that dynamic feels like it's important both to the story and also important to how the characters are processing the story. That is, if you're in Colony House, you're processing it one way, and if you're in the town, you're processing it another.
Right.
It just feels, yeah, feels really strange. So okay, so let's talk about Victor. Um, Victor is such an interesting character. Um, I absolutely love this concept, and I don't want to jump ahead, so I don't want to tell you sort of like what I know about Victor in terms of his history right now, but I will say that Victor proves to be one of the most interesting recurring characters in the series. I think that isn't sort of like we're not following him as the main protagonist. um and there's things that he says that just feel like, what did he just throw that out there and not follow it up with anything else? Did people just hear that? Am I the only person that heard that? It's it's kind of it's telling in a way. And when he passes and talks to, um, well, I guess I'm going to ask you first of all, what did you think of Victor? And then I'll tell you what I was thinking made this so interesting. What did you think about that character?
I felt like, once again, that he's another interesting character. Hopefully, not a red herring. That actually he has more to do with the story than just a little bit. You know, that actor, he looks familiar. I know I've seen him in something. I
His
can't.
name is Scott McCord.
Okay, I know I've seen him before in other stuff, but no, he's definitely one of the interesting characters that you want to know more about. And
His
he,
filmography is so long. It starts in 1998 and scrolls all the way down to 2022. He's been in The Blacklist, he's been in Jupiter's Legacy, he was in Carter, he was in Hemlock Grove, he was in Lost Girl. He has been in so much, but he's one of those characters or one of those actors that is like a character actor that is sort of not in the background, but sort of plays the characters that fill in the blanks.
right.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Okay,
kind of.
I knew he looked familiar to me. Uh, but like I can see why I didn't necessarily remember who he was because a lot of those shows that he's on. I don't think he probably, as far as I can see here, doesn't seem like he's never had like a very significant part. You know,
No, he wasn't main character status in almost anything.
right?
So okay, so my first opinion of Victor was, oh, maybe he's mentally unstable. I mean, he's talking about peaches and he's talking about, uh doing little things in
Very.
exchange,
He was kind of creepy
so
too.
that yeah. Well, you know what, was he creepy really, or was she just making him creepy? Because I feel like she was just making him creepy. I don't actually, when I went back and watched that scene again, right, I'm not saying that, like, maybe his behavior wasn't a little off, but his behavior being off wasn't necessarily creepy. It was her response to it was Julie's response to Victor that made it feel like that was higher stakes than it actually was. Now, don't get me wrong, because in the very next episode that we are going to see, basically, I, him being creepy is for a completely different reason.
Oh
And
wow.
I mean that like from the bottom of my soul. It it You totally realize why he's there, but then you really understand how insane this whole thing feels. It Because again, paint by number story, it starts to feel like we're just getting tiny glimpses of whatever this big picture is. So there's that is definitely a part of it. But again, I felt like it was Julie's response to him that made people feel like he was being creepy when actually I don't think he was. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And then I think somebody even said that he was not somebody that you had to worry about. He's a little different, but he's
Right.
safe.
And there is such a good boy, would I ever love to say some more. There is a really good reason why he is a little bit off. It is one of the most telling pieces of the story that feels like, oh, finally we're going to get like a big clue about something, and this super terrible thing that we see in a flashback happens, and it still doesn't shed any light on really what's happening. So yeah, you there's so much to sort of unpack and process about how some of the stories that are unfolding and how little they actually give us, but how even in the little moments it feels like, oh, that's plenty. Oh, that's yeah, don't give me too much more cuz I got a lot to process here. So, yeah, I'm not complaining about that, not at all, not even a little. Um so give me I would love to know, is as the night goes on, obviously if we flash back to the RV again, um everybody's scared, and the only person who basically I think isn't scared in a meaningful way is uh well, actually I shouldn't say that. I think everybody's scared. I feel like the idea that everyone is afraid of what is happening in the RV extends even to Kristi, who feels like she is way more cool maybe than anybody else. Just because she's got a sense of direction and she's doing stuff. But Ethan, the little boy, his even he senses that there's something pretty huge going on here. And when Jim, his dad, is talking about what he hears, he's basically covering in a dad way for his kid, going, yeah, everything's fine, it's okay, you're okay, everything is going to be okay. Clearly not everything is okay. And I was wondering how you felt or what you thought might be happening in those moments. Like, like um did you feel like there was something more than than we understand about what is going on out there? What the things are. I loved in this episode that we basically didn't see any of those things. I mean, not in the RV. That in the RV, it was basically what we hear is probably much scarier than what we could ever see. All of the fear was all within the actors. How did you feel about that? What did you get from that?
Oh yeah, that sometimes it's better. Your imagination of what's out there is more scarier than what's actually out there. I mean, even though we know what's out there is pretty scary. so
Right.
so but obviously, by the end of the episode, we see that the kid can see things that the adults can't see.
That's
So
right. That's right.
so
And remember what I said before. Well, first of all, let me go back to that. I feel like that's a metaphor for this entire, or a metaphor that runs through this entire series. The metaphor that runs through the series is, it is scarier what you don't what you can't see. What you don't know is sort of happening. That is way scarier than the things that you can see. And remember, we know what they can see. They can see very scary things. So in escalation, it is enormous to say that they are things that are scarier than the things that they can actually see. I just had to say that. Um, so by the end of the episode, we discover that Ethan can actually see this little boy, right? Who is
I thought the
stand.
boy was him
Oh,
at first, but it's another actor plays him.
It is, and this is going to go back to what I said, and this is unconfirmed. I mean, I don't know that this is what's happening because even in the later episodes, I still don't have any confirmation of this. But my feeling is that kids are a threat because I don't think that little boy is a threat. I think that that little boy, there's something about children in this world that is threatening to the beings, to the monsters. And I don't know what it is. I wish I could close in on what that is, but my gut feeling says, "Oh, well no wonder they want to kill kids. They want to kill kids because aside from just the visceral terror that this is causing, and aside from whatever satisfaction they're getting out of killing things, there's something about children that is clearly demonstrably uh, challenging, threatening. There's something about it that is causing a problem. And again, I don't have any clear reason, but then why would the boy be out in the middle of the day? Number one. Number two, why would Ethan be able to see this little boy and nobody else can? I just feel like that is an essential question to be asking going forward. What did you what other than thinking that he was Ethan? What did you think about that little kid?
Kid was very spooky. But
He was spooky, right?
yeah, because when I was like, wait a minute, he's seen him in the daytime. Like, what the heck? And
Yeah,
he's telling them to shh. As you, I don't know if you can see the image on
yeah,
the screen. He's
yeah.
telling I guess be silent about the fact that he's there.
That he can see
Um,
him.
right.
Yep.
Um, uh, Kind of reminded me of. Did you ever see Sinister?
Yes.
Kind of had a Sinister vibe to it. Actually, the kid kind of looks like the kid from Sinister.
He does,
Sinister,
doesn't he?
yeah. Great movie, by the way. We should review that. But
Speaking of another Ethan.
right. Oh yeah, Ethan Hawke, right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. No, but yeah, it's like, okay, wow, okay. Cause like you think you know the rules, and this shows you like, wait a minute, what does this mean? Like, because by this point you think like, okay, daytime, everything's fine.
Yep.
So now this tells you like, oh, wait a minute, there's other rules that that must adhere to. So,
and
you know,
and I have to say that when I saw him in the daytime, at first I actually made the jump, the conclusion that, oh, wait a minute, maybe the monsters can come out in the day and they're just choosing not to. But then I was like, no, no, wait a minute, no, sounds completely wrong. Everything that the show has been telling us is that nighttime is
the right time.
that's the nighttime is the right time. That's the right time to die.
Right.
Um, because we get no stake at all in anybody being scared, or in fact they're doing laundry in the day. I mean, like, it's so the life level is so mundane in the day that clearly they are not troubled by it. So no, I don't think that the monsters can walk in the day. I think this is something else, and I don't know what it is. Maybe there is like a supernatural standoff between the force that is what we see in the little
Dark in the light.
kid
The dark in the light.
and look, show that picture again. Show that picture of that little boy again. What is he wearing?
White. Oh,
Yes.
white. Yeah.
Yes. And even his shorts, we can't see it here, but even his shorts are white. And so it
And he's called the
does
boy in the white too.
it feels very much like maybe that is our indication that he is on the side of good. I don't, again, I don't know, but boy does it ever feel that way. So lots and lots and lots to sort of process out and try to understand. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about what happens to Kenny's dad, right?
Yeah.
uh Poor Kenny's dad. Kenny's dad is an elderly man who clearly has some form of dementia as well, but is getting along. And his caregiver, who Kristi leaves to go rescue Ethan and be with Jim and Boyd in the RV, she's there with him, and there is absolutely nothing that she can do once she realizes that they have made their way inside. So they retreat into kind of like a storage room, and in that room they meet their final demise, and it's horrific. It is, what we see afterwards is just, man, I'm I've hated my mom on a number of occasions. Sorry, mom, if you're listening. But I would never wish anything like this ever on anybody. And to have that be the last visual that you have of your parent has got to be, that's just got to send you over the edge. I mean, I have no idea at all right now how Kenny is even holding it together a little. You
Yeah.
know, it's just huge. And I don't know about you, but take a look at that blood stain behind them.
Uh huh.
That is not the blood stain of someone who, or something that just sort of like casually even ripped through a body. That is, it feels ragey. It
Right.
feels right.
Yeah,
Uh,
they've been waiting to get a chance to get somebody.
right? I mean, I don't. I was kind of wondering if maybe I was off base with that, but it really, it feels
Well,
like
they
there
went
is
96. They went 96 days without getting anybody. So in the last 2 days, they got four. So you
ro-
know,
right, right, and just as an
what? Wait, does the
aside,
other guy count? Like, because it looked like they ripped him up too, the guy that was already dead. So they just,
one, two, three. Actually, I think it's three because Sarah killed the other guy.
well, he killed him. She killed him, but his body was ripped to shreds. Like,
Right,
unless she did
right.
that, and we didn't see
No,
it.
she didn't. No, she didn't rip him to
So they
shreds.
came in and ripped his dead body to shreds.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said in our previous episode, it does feel like there's something happening with the reason that they are tearing the bodies apart. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's for nutrients or sustenance because uh why wouldn't they eat the rest of the body?
They leave the head, right?
Are they, I mean, and the legs and the arms? I mean, are they just that picky eaters or what's going on there? I don't
Yeah.
know.
And are they eating them or are they ripping them to shreds or what is it?
Yeah. Or are they using the organs for something else? I mean, I don't know. At this point, it feels like everything is on the table. It doesn't feel like there is a single idea that we could come up with, which we would go, no, there's no way that could be happening. Because then you could just look at something else and go, yeah, oh, you know what? Maybe. Maybe
Mm.
this is exactly what's happening. Maybe they're all, I don't know. Maybe this is some I, the only thing that I don't think that it is, because there's just a number of indications which make me sort of move away from it. I don't think that they are in hell. I mean,
Purgatory or hell?
yeah,
I hope
later
not. That would be terrible.
in the series, I feel like they, and this is later, I feel like they throw a number of sort of like red herrings out about that and sort of like make you double question, oh, are we in hell? Is this, whatever? But then there are too many there are too many specifics that are happening, and later on in the series also one of the characters says, you know what, does it matter actually, we're here. So, and I feel like that is sort of why we as the audience shouldn't be paying attention to whether that's a truism or not. And like you said, I sure hope it's not,
That's for the
because
audience. That's I think that was their message to the audience. Like, you know, we're here. It doesn't matter. You know.
exactly, exactly, yep, yep. But it also
Remember though,
throws,
these guys worked on Lost, and that was the whole thing about Lost. Was there in purgatory or not?
which makes me doubly hope that that is not the message that we're getting this time around, because I would be really upset if that was the message. I mean, yeah, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't feel that way. And again, there's things that are going to happen in just one or two episodes from now, which will deepen the mystery even further. And by deepen the mystery, I mean, like, there are some things that just absolutely blow your mind and make you go,
Hmm.
for what purpose is all of this happening? And oh God, it's so good. I mean, everything about this series makes me happy, I think, because it starts out with these really awesome character bases that just keep getting better and more refined in terms of their sculpted appearance, in terms of what their backstories reveal about them and how they are manifesting what is happening in the present as it relates to the newcomers in town, and why this is such a huge thing. Why is it important that all of these things are happening? What possible relevance can this have? And how do the people who are living here now, how do they keep managing to keep any semblance of sanity about them? I mean, like, it's pretty overwhelming, but that's, I feel like, what makes it so good. There is a kind of incomprehensible insanity about this that is told in a way that doesn't make you in the audience feel like it's just a lot of disconnected gibberish, or oh my gosh, there's so much horror and violence that we can't possibly keep attention to any one given thing. It just feels like the stakes keep getting raised again and again. And the second episode made me realize that that the pilot was not a fluke. There is a tone, there is a tempo, and a really excellent sense of storytelling here that, as it unravels, is just spectacular. So I'm so sorry. I know I talked a lot. Tell me, overall, what are your thoughts about this episode?
I thought it was very good. I liked the first episode a little bit better.
Hmm.
But this episode, it gave you a little more background. It kind of put the because I feel like the Matthews family is supposed to be us, right? We
Yeah.
don't know what's going on, and thrusted in this world that they didn't, ask to be in, of course. So I feel like this episode, gave some answers. Obviously not all the answers, but I thought overall it was a pretty good episode. It was a good follow up to the pilot.
I'm going to really lean in on what your responses are to a couple of the more fantastical things that happen in very upcoming episodes. Uh, and the reason that I say fantastical is not because, oh, it feels like magic, or, but because of the way that they present these fantastical things, how centered on the world they make it. It makes it unlike most fantasy or science fiction kind of stories, because it doesn't feel that far off. It doesn't feel like there's a huge stretch of the imagination to imagine sort of being in this position. And the slow reveal, the slow burn of the story is perfect for us to keep being, I think, invested over and over again in what's happening. And who we think the bad guys are and who we think the good guys are don't feel like a fixed position here. It feels like this is very, like, what we're being led to believe is good or bad may not actually be the good or the bad that we think it is. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I'm actually really excited to both hear what you have to say and discuss some of the reveals that are coming up, because some of them are just so cool. I'm really excited.
Okay.
I can't wait to start talking about them.
Well, how soon can we cover the next two episodes?
Well, I say that we should cover the next two episodes as soon as we can. We
Okay.
Right now we are at the last episode that aired was
Six, right?
6, book 74. And book 74 was a great episode, very
When
good.
the when these episodes come out?
They come out on, I want to say they come out on, is it Thursdays? No, wait a minute. The episodes come out on Sundays. That's right. They come out on Sundays.
Well,
Um,
if we can, I'm gonna try to watch them tonight, and then maybe we can tomorrow or the next day we can and then maybe we can catch the newest episode, and then we'll be on a regular schedule.
There's only 10 episodes in this series.
Uh-huh.
We already know that we already know that we're not going to get an actual conclusion to all of this because of some stuff that was aired already.
Hmm.
So we know that we're not actually going to get a resolution. But that seems like that might actually work in its favor because
Has it been picked
I
up for a second season?
I haven't seen that it was picked up, but I haven't seen that it was canceled either. And we know that Epix works on a kind of different when they renew things is a little bit different. We watched a show called Chapelwaite, and Chapelwaite is the show that I was telling you about that is the beginning of Salem's Lot or the prequel to
Right.
Salem's Lot. And they waited, gosh, a full, what, 4 or 5 months before they announced that there was a season two. And I didn't even think that it was possible to do a season two. So I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Um, but I feel like there is very strong indication that there will be a season two for this simply because there's they clearly and heavily invested a lot in this, so it feels like that it's got a pretty good chance.
All
Let's
right.
see. Okay, so the very next episode that we will be talking about, or maybe the next two episodes, one is called Choosing Day, that's episode 3. And then the next episode is called A Rock and a Far Way. This it's episode 4 where things really start to jumble
Uh-huh.
and get heated up. So if we can get through episode 3 and 4, that would be fabulous.
All right. That'll be the next one. It'll be 3 and 4.
Right.
All
So
right.
how can we find you on social media?
All right. You can get me at Kinte F on Twitter, at Kinte Ferguson on Instagram, and of course the website is theindieradio.com. Jen, how can we get you on social media and all that good stuff?
I just wanted to mention that that indie radio has an amazing amount of content, and if you are looking for a podcast that has any one of a number of different subject matters, from things that are related to series to things that are related to movies to things that are related to horror, there is so much over there. I mean, just absolutely a huge amount. So you'll find something you like. So go visit. Um, and you
Oh,
can find me at moviesandmeals.com. Also, I don't know, I guess I should maybe mention, I also do another podcast now that's called The Movie Potluck. And The Movie Potluck airs every Thursday. We have a panel of guests. We pick a topic. This week is swashbuckling movies. And everybody brings a meal to our potluck. We discuss the movie and we discuss the food that we want to bring to our movie. So it's a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll get to see you over there as well.
right. But with that said, I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Can't wait for the rest.